The headlines on RT International. Australia suggests the Trans-Pacific Partnership deal is now open to China after Donald Trump opts out of the historic trade agreement. The new Washington administration says it would consider joint Russia-US military action against Islamic State in Syria. Face to face, it's the second day of tough talks on Syria, where the government and opposition groups have finally been put at the same negotiation table, this time in Kazakstan. And America remains divided as scores of people continue to protest across the country against the new president. Thanks for joining us here on RT International. We have your latest worldwide news. Australia is hoping to salvage the Trans-Pacific Partnership deal following Donald Trump's decision to walk away. The country's government claims China could now fill the void. And killing off the massive 12-nation trade deal was one of Trump's first major acts since being sworn in.
We've been talking about this for a long time. Thank you. Okay. Great thing for the American worker, what we just did.
The Trans-Pacific Partnership, or TPP, was a free trade agreement between the U.S. and 11 Pacific countries. It was expected to cover 800 million people and encompass 40% of the global economy. Though originally China was not even invited to the project, with many experts and analysts seeing that as an attempt to contain the nation's influence in its own region. Now, throughout almost 8 years of negotiations, there's been huge public resistance to the deal. Several countries involved in the talks have seen massive anti-TPP protests. People had been taking to the streets, claiming the deal would mean an inflow of foreign companies and therefore job losses. They also believe TPP would only benefit big corporations. And a huge veil of secrecy around the agreement also fueled discontent. While some activists argued TPP would also harm the environment. Well, from the very beginning of his election campaign, Donald Trump promised to throw the deal on the scrap heap.
TPP, which is a disaster, by the way, we'll never approve it. TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership. One bad deal after another. Withdraw from TPP, which is another disaster, and protect every last American job.
However, not everyone shares that view, even within Trump's own party. For example, Republican Senator John McCain slammed the new president's decision, calling it a serious mistake and warning of a negative impact on the U.S. economy. But there was support coming from the opposite camp, former Democratic presidential hopeful Bernie Sanders.
I am glad the Trans-Pacific Partnership is dead and gone. The Congress and the President can work together to develop a new trade policy that helps working families, not just the multinational corporations.
RT America host Ed Schultz believes scrapping TPP is a way for Trump to show that he's a man of his word.
This goes against the millions upon millions of dollars that was spent by Wall Street lobbyists to try to get this deal through the Congress, and they couldn't get it done. And people within the Obama party, the Democratic Party, were not on board with him. And I can tell you that a lot of union workers in this country are going to be very happy that he has made this move this early. John McCain on the Republican side has said that this is a big mistake, but this now opens the door for Donald Trump to go do these trade deals that he promised the American people he would do. You're not going to hear a whole lot of Democrats on Capitol Hill clamoring about how great Donald Trump is for doing this. This is what they wanted, but they're not going to give him the accolades for it.
Meanwhile, Japan, which was signed up to the deal, insists it will keep on stressing the importance of TPP to the U.S. in an attempt to get Washington back on board.
I hope to tenaciously appeal to the U.S. for their understanding of the TPP's strategic and economic significance.
And while support for Trump's dismantling of the massive trade deal has come from some non-TPP nations, the former UK Independence Party leader and Brexit frontman Nigel Farage tweeted he thought the decision was right. While Dr. Jack Rasmus, a political economics professor, claims whatever the future for TPP, it's now a win-win situation for China.
What you're going to see is China is going to sweep up some of the countries in Asia here that were going to be partners to TPP into its own free trade zone here. So China is going to be a winner on the global stage with this particular move. But you know, Trump's whole strategy is to force companies to invest in the U.S. so he can say, look, I'm bringing jobs back. Whether the executive order abolishing TPP does that remains to be seen.
And just days after his inauguration, Donald Trump continues to face a wall of resistance. Protesters have been gathering outside the Capitol buildings in Washington and Salt Lake City. And with unrest bubbling away, the new president may struggle to bridge divides, as Caleb Mopan reports.
Last Friday, it was finally supposed to all be over. Trump took the oath, supporters applauded, protesters decried him, buildings got vandalized, some people cried, and now, after a roller coaster election, the country can finally just settle down for 4 years of President Trump. Or can it? Women marched across the country, with many saying they're offended by Trump. A Trump supporter who begged to differ was surrounded by the crowd.
I'm not offended by Trump, and half the country is not offended by Trump, so what about them? What about them? What about the rest of the country that's not offended by Trump?
And guess who was cleaning up after the hundreds of thousands marched against Trump in Washington? A man wearing a Make America Great Again hat. It's only to be expected that people get fired up and angry at political rallies, but now the political angst has taken literally to the skies.
You pretend you have the moral high ground, but you put that man's finger on the meat of your butt.
This woman wanted to switch seats because she just couldn't take several hours of sitting next to a Trump supporter. She was eventually kicked off the plane to public applause. Trump's inaugural speech included a call for civilized discourse and constructive debate.
We must speak our minds openly, debate our disagreements honestly, but always pursue solidarity. When America is united, America is totally unstoppable.
But it seems far from united at the moment. Now the question is, what exactly will Trump be able to accomplish in this atmosphere of anger and division? Caleb Mopan, RT.
We discussed the situation with people from both sides of the divide in America.
The people are taking the streets to protect their rights and to advance the causes. There are norms in our society. There are norms in a democracy. This is not an autocracy. He's not the ruler and king.
The people that we saw marching the other day, the people in New York City, the people in Los Angeles, they represent those who live off the rest of us. We need to separate that, let them live off themselves, let us live off ourselves. They just should go their own way. The rest of us should ignore them to the extent we can. Of course, if they're violent, there has to be a defensive reaction.
There is a lot of things that we can agree on, and these are the things that the president should be looking for. He should be looking for ways to make us unite, not divide us as a country.
I think it's excellent that we have the split. I think it's showing everybody that all the notion about, one nation and so forth is just nonsense. This is not one nation, it's multiple nations.
The Electoral College should be trashed. There should be a popular vote. There shouldn't be red and blue. We should be a United States.
There were cases in this country where lots of illegal immigrants voted. And I think some of these people were voting multiple times, too. So did Trump actually lose the popular vote of the American people? I must say I don't think so.
The CIA has released online the largest collection of declassified records after yielding to pressure from activists. It means decades of U.S. intelligence files are now accessible to the general public. The agency created a searchable database of more than 12 million pages of declassified files dating from the 1940s to the 1990s. Now, they were already available to the public, but very difficult to access, requiring you to get inside a federal building with only 4 computers. The files were published online after a lawsuit from activists. The files reveal information about Nazi war crimes all the way to attempts to assassinate Fidel Castro, among others.